make my tea with sincerity. Yeah, it's really important advice that I always give to people is try to find a local group around you for meditation and or maybe even go to Google and search for Buddhist temple near you, Google Maps, and find what you can find and make use of it. Um, there are certainly female monks in the world. Hello there, Jonathan. Those who don't know, I live at a Buddhist monastery, so that's how I'm able to live with the support of the Buddhist community. Hello and welcome to everyone who is here. I am Bhante Varrapanyo, 30-year-old American Buddhist monk. This is a live stream. We have some tea and have an opportunity to ask questions if you would like to. And we are live in a few different places. This is more just a meditative experience and a present moment experience, but it's not the formal guided meditation or meditation class that we'll have at 9 p.m. California time. So that'll be about an hour and a half from now. If you'd like to join for that live meditation class, see you in an hour and a half. If you'd like to ask some questions, this is a good time to do it. And you can also join me in enjoying some tea. We have some people who are watching this live stream on TikTok, and we also have some people who are joining through Reddit. If you would like to experience this live event in the highest quality, I recommend you join on YouTube. And I put a link in the Reddit comments to the YouTube channel so you can check it out. And if you're on TikTok, you should be able to find my YouTube channel if you search for my username. Search for Bhante Varrapanyo on YouTube. You'll find it. It looks like we have a question from someone. Supermarket, come on up. You can you can ask your question by just leaving a comment, or you can kind of raise your hand and come up to the stage and ask a question with your voice if you're on Reddit. You can do this on TikTok as well. Kind of raise your hand and come up on stage. All right, so does that sound good for everyone? Can enjoy some mindful tea and Q&A and meditative mindset in the present moment. We can come home to our breathing and enjoy the present moment together. Thank you. Hi, Bia and Shashank and Jonathan. Keep going. Don't give up. Don't get attached to things working out either, because things not working out is completely temporary, and things working out is also completely temporary. So don't get too stuck on anything. All right, so we'll bring a couple people up to ask questions, and let's start with who is. Are you there? Who is? You need to unmute.
I was trying to
Great.
pick the wrong
Yeah.
microphone, but how are you? That's my first question.
Good. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I was curious what type of Buddhism you practice, like Zen or.
Okay. Thank you. Who is Julie? So, what kind of Buddhism do I practice? I practice based Buddhism. I practice progressive Buddhism. I'm non-sectarian Buddhist monk, so I look to many modern teachers such as Ajahn Brahm, Thich Nhat Hanh, to my own teacher, Sayadaw Ashin Otamasara from Myanmar. And I encourage people in general to not be sectarian. Find something to make use of and make use of it. In what way? Well, in the way of doing good deeds, mindfulness, and detachment. So if someone sends me a talk from a Tibetan Buddhist monk, well, sure, I'll take a look at that. I'll check that out, see what they have to say. It's curious. If someone sends me a talk by a Chinese Buddhist monk, Mahayana, or what have you, sure, I'll listen to that too. Non-sectarian based Buddhism is what I would say the kind of Buddhism that I'm following. And that relates to early Buddhist teachings, EBT, but it also relates to the Chan tradition or the Zen tradition. I highly align myself with Zen Buddhism, and the teachers that I seem to enjoy a lot or appreciate a lot also tend to be in the kind of a Zen style. And the group meditations and the community study that we do with my community on Discord also tend to be in line with that, in the Zen kind of sphere. Okay, thank you for your question. Bring up a couple more people to ask their questions. Why don't we start with Zong? Zong, are you there? Zong Rizu.
Oh, thank you. Um, yeah, my question is, if isn't Buddhism kind of a very selfish thing? Because it is always said, you try to get rid of the ego, but then all of your thoughts circle around the ego as a process to get rid of it. I mean, there are people who, I don't know, try to make the world better, and they care about others, but Buddhists seem to care only about themselves, get rid of all these problematic thoughts, and so they are happy individually.
Hmm. So, very interesting point. What we'll find in the modern world and throughout history is that Buddhism is a nonviolent, focused practice of virtue, meditation, and insight. When we look at modern Buddhist countries, we find some of the most active practices of community generosity. So in Thailand, in Myanmar, in Sri Lanka, in Laos, in Cambodia, in Vietnam, certainly in Buddhist countries, there is almost a primordial understanding or a base understanding that Buddhists have or human beings have in this area about the importance of generosity, not only for helping other people, but for helping ourselves. So, actually, the first step in being a Buddhist or practicing Buddhism, the first step in Sila, which is so Buddhism, the path to enlightenment or the path to ending suffering is made up by Sila, Samadhi, and Panya. They kind of go one after another, but they're connected. And Sila means virtue, this virtuous conduct. And the doorway to virtue, the doorway to living virtuously, is generosity. So Buddhist people are, generosity is like something right at the tip of the tongue for all Buddhist people. They're all considering about, what way can I make merit? What way can I do good deeds? How can I practice generosity in a real way? And in this sense, we have to recognize that that's the foundation of Buddhism is generosity. Many people have a surface level understanding of Buddhism or meditation because it's something very different from the West. And it's very different from Western culture. But Buddhism would be the last religion to say is primarily selfish. Rather, modern forms of engaged Buddhism and modern monks who have taken on responsibilities of social work have been some of the most successful social leaders in the world in a lot of ways, and propagating values of virtue, values of generosity, values of introspection, contemplation, and kind of doing the work that we need done in a modern society. That's my experience with Buddhism. Generosity
Thank you
is
very
right
much.
there at the core of the religion. Like Buddhism without generosity, there's no Buddhism. There's no such thing. So thank you for your question, Zong. Appreciate you. Let's go to Big Rab. Big Rab, do you have a question?
Hi, yes. My question would be, have you always been a Buddhist? And if not, what made you decide to become one?
Well, I haven't always been a Buddhist. I was born a naked baby. But I had a lot of suffering and I had a strong awareness of that suffering mentally, emotionally, psychologically. And I had a awareness of that suffering and a wish to transform it and a wish to change that situation and change that suffering. So I looked for support, I looked for help, I looked for direction. And the direction that I found to be most workable and viable for me was the philosophy of Buddhism, the practice of Buddhism, the teachings of the Buddha. And that eventually led me to becoming a monk because I found it to be so transformative and to bring so much value to my life.
Was it the first thing you tried?
No, I grew up, generally Christian, kind of like generally American Christian. Then I got into atheism. That didn't take me anywhere. Um, then I got into like just general spirituality. So um, I was a Hare Krishna for a little bit, just a couple weeks, but Alan Watts, Eckhart Tolle, um, just spirituality in general. And then I eventually went and lived at a Zen Buddhist meditation center for a year when I was 21, and that's what changed my mind and my life a lot. And so I really became a Buddhist and a meditator from that point on.
So my next question was going to be if you had like an epiphany moment like that, but I'll let someone else have the stage now. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you too. No, I didn't really have an epiphany moment. I would say, but it was more like a consistent um, making use of the practices that were available in Buddhism and through meditation and meditative community. And those led me to understanding at almost like a neurological level of the value of what I was involved with. You know, the value of meditation, the value of compassion, kindness, patience, etc. And if you're watching on TikTok and you want to hear the questions that people are asking, please go to the YouTube channel and you'll be able to hear the audio. So quite a few hands are raised here. Let's bring everybody up and go one by one. Start with empty. Or Vaughn, are you there? Anyone ready?
Hey, I
Go
was
ahead,
curious.
empty.
Have you ever been to the astral plane?
What's that?
Have you ever been to the astral plane?
Okay, the astral plane. Thank you, Angry Dragon. So in Buddhism, we are emphasizing stability and peace of mind. We are emphasizing to release and reduce the self-fixated view of a real true person and a real true story, and rather to do good deeds more and more, and to practice mindfulness. So to be more aware and more directly connected to having a relationship with the present moment, breathing, aware of the body, drinking tea, hearing a sound, seeing a color, reuniting with our breathing, okay, coming back to the breath. And the Buddhist understanding of the spiritual path totally relates to the ending of suffering. It doesn't relate to having special, kind of spiritual experiences like astral projection or something like that. Now, those could happen. It's possible for something like that to happen. And I'm sure there are works and kind of words about those states or those experiences, but it's not the point of Buddhism. The point of Buddhism is to end suffering, right? To transform our suffering into peace, to transform our delusion and our kind of dark delusions to awareness, presence, and wholehearted kindness, patience, compassion, and wisdom, right? Strength of wisdom, of clear seeing as well. So we don't emphasize any kind of dreaming or lucid dreaming or astral projection, anything that's self-fixated, unless it's a practical ways of letting go or cultivating our virtue or training the mind in a simple way. We don't emphasize that. So a good metric you can use for your progress on the spiritual path, the main thing we can focus on is going from a complicated mind to a simple mind. That's also a wholesome mind and kind of a gentle mind and like an open-hearted mind, right? We're not holding spears ready to, crucify someone because what have you, right? But it's a simple mind, it's a wholesome mind, it's a compassionate mind, it's a gentle mind, it's an open contemplative mind. So the first step on the spiritual path, the Buddhist path of like meditative progress, wisdom progress, whatever you want to call it, is moving from that complicated mind to a simple mind, and then from a simple mind to a unified mind, and then from a unified mind to no mind. But just the basic premise of moving from a complicated mind to a simple mind, you can understand a lot of what practical Buddhist teachings are about. Okay, so how about empty soul? Do you have something to say?
Yeah, hello. Thanks
Hi.
for allowing me to ask a question.
Sure.
So mine's a two-parter, so I hope
Go ahead.
it's not too much. So the first part is, and is the is there a vow of silence for Buddhist monks? And if so, like, is it all Buddhist monks? Is there a time frame where you enter into that kind of a situation? And then the second part, well, go ahead. I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I'm not sure where everyone is getting this this mindset of or this understanding of Buddhist monks taking vows of silence, but it's not something exceedingly common. It certainly in meditation retreats we do it, but taking a vow of silence is usually not a part of that. So that's not a normal thing for Buddhist monks to be in silence for extended period of time outside of a meditation retreat, and of course there's some places or times when we might do that, but in general it's not like a rule of thumb that we need to be silent for a particular period of time.
Okay, good to know. I appreciate your answer. That's I think there's a lot of misconceptions in a lot of faiths. So it's always good to hear it directly from somebody that's experiencing it. So thank you for that. The second part, I like yourself. I've been through many faiths and whatnot, and I find myself as an atheist. But listening and knowing my mother-in-law is Buddhist, but knowing from my conversations with her, it leads me to wonder: is Buddhism, and can you maybe help define the difference between Buddhism being a lifestyle and being a faith? Because to
Yeah.
me, it kind of sounds like a lifestyle, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand the faith part of it.
Well, it's
And that's it.
very
Thank you.
I mean, we have certain ideas in Buddhism that are quite radical and poetic and a little bit out there. But so like this idea of that there's no self, there's not an actual soul, there's not and so maybe atheists would also say, oh, well, there's not a soul, but the Buddhist understanding is also that there's not a real true person in a real true story, that is not actually what's going on in any real capacity in reality. Now that's not, but that's inclusive of practical situations and being skillful and being reasonable and driving a car in a reasonable way, but that fundamentally this notion of a self or a soul, this real true person and a real true story is not actually reality. That this is more of a misperception or a kind of ignorance, that we're not seeing the truth. So there's some like poetic and mystical perspectives that we have, but how I understand Buddhism is that Buddhism is a practice that has a philosophy has bloomed out of or been built around or kind of come out of. So there's a philosophy that has come out of the practice of Buddhism, and the practice of Buddhism is very much based on renunciation, doing good deeds, meditative training, and through those kinds of meditative training and living a virtuous life, this mind investigation. So it's a principle of recognizing that in the scientific world, okay, and I'm a Buddhist monk, so I quite like Buddhism, and this is how I see it. In the scientific world, there is a particular tool or a particular telescope that we are using to look at all other telescopes, and that is our mind, right? This body, this brain, which is we're all human beings, so there's a lot of similarities in this tool, and that the Buddhist prerogative, or even a monk's prerogative, is to investigate the tool itself, right? To investigate the mind itself, to investigate awareness itself. And certainly you can understand that if the mind becomes more and more stable, it's much like going from a biased experiment to in a dirty room to a unbiased experiment in a clean room. And then more and more that we can concentrate and relax and stabilize the mind, the more that this experiment or this kind of this investigation can become more scientific and more subtle and more refined. And so that we gain insights in not just to the concepts of the mind or the content of the mind that comes up or that we experience, but actually the functioning of the mind itself and the principles in which the mind operates. And this is this Buddhist practice of virtue, meditation, and insight, and that's what Buddhism is really about. Virtuous living, that generally stabilizes our mind. And then with a generally stabilized mind, we can almost apply more consistency or more introspection, more contemplation to our moment by moment experience. And because we are emphasizing that rather than content or being, pulled into this direction and that direction by our biases or by our desires or fears, we begin to look deeper and deeper into the foundation of the mind, okay, the nature of the mind, and that's how we get these insights into, for example, 3 Buddhist principles of reality. The 3 marks of reality in Buddhism is no separate self, no self, which is like there's no such thing as a chair. There's no such thing as a flower that exists separate from anything else. A chair is just made up of its parts. We just call it a chair, right? A tree, we just call it a tree, but a tree is not separate from the sun, right? So no self, impermanence, that everything is impermanent, that in everything's nature is impermanence. That includes our thought, our perceptions, our views, physical sensations. And then finally, this dukkha, or this suffering, which is an understanding that ultimately material or mental phenomena are not going to satisfy us in any way. There's no drink we can drink that's going to satisfy our thirst. There's no thought that we can think that is going to satisfy the desire. And it's interesting principles or interesting marks of reality to emphasize. And for someone who's kind of just intellectually curious, but not that curious, they might say, so what? And that so what is reasonable, right? A tree is not actually separate from the sun. So what? Right. And so at least there is there's a communication, or there's an understanding there. And maybe you or someone wants to live their life in this way of so what, but for a Buddhist practitioner, there's a closer looking, there's an investigation into the nature of no self. And it applies to so many different aspects of the habits of our mind, the relationships that we have with other people, how we see the world, how we objectify the world, how we fall into dualistic thinking when that dualistic thinking is not actually that based, and a lot of times not practical. So for me, I practice and follow Buddhism like that, and a lot of people do, but it can also be inclusive of a lot of religious ideals and religious positions. And so it's kind of that they are means to help people be more relaxed, to feel safe. And so here's an example. We have, there is some concept in Buddhism about something like a bodhisattva. And I like this concept a lot, but a bodhisattva is basically an archetype of a particular faculty of mind that is very wholesome and auspicious and useful. So like an archetype of compassion, for example. So we have a bodhisattva, Avalokiteshvara, Guanyin Bodhisattva. Okay, it's this archetype of compassion, this entity of compassion, right? So, and it's very like powerful and intergalactic and spiritual. Whatever you want to apply to it, you can say that is okay. So from the Buddhist perspective, that whatever that is, and people might worship that or believe in that or chant the name of that. I do, to like invoke that quality of mind or invoke that archetype. From a deeper Buddhist perspective, or like a reasonable Buddhist perspective, that archetype or that being, right, Avalokiteshvara, is as real as you are, because you're also not real. Your real true character and a real true story that you apply so much importance to is also empty. So rather than spending all your time thinking about that nonsense, it's much more reasonable to spend a lot of energy focusing on, this nonsense of Avalokiteshvara, this bodhisattva of compassion, this archetype. But of course, you could become nonsensical about that, and that would be problematic. So it's a lot of interesting concepts in Buddhism. And from my understanding, there's definitely an argument to be made that Buddhism is the most successful school of philosophy that's ever existed in humankind. Like I'm happy to hear other people's positions on that if they're super, with it and educated and interested, but there's definitely an argument for that. Apparently, the first ever university was a Buddhist university in India. And Buddhism as a philosophy that stemmed out of India has had massive influence and massive success in going from country to country through nonviolence and purely by means of, the merits of the teachings and the ideals. So it became one of the major religions in China, came from India. It's still dominating Thailand and Myanmar and Sri Lanka and Laos and Cambodia and Vietnam to some extent. Japan and Korea were deeply, deeply Buddhist countries for centuries and centuries, hundreds and hundreds of years. And the reason that the Buddhist institution, like the philosophi, the Buddhist monks, if you want to be generous, is like this school of philosophers or renunciates. The reason that they don't have a larger voice in China or Korea or Japan now is because they have been forcibly like reduced by the military, by the government, in many ways. So it's a very interesting tradition to get involved with, and I love it. I enjoy it, and I'm going to continue being involved with it.
Well, you've given me plenty to think of, and I appreciate your. No, seriously, and like,
Yeah.
no, you articulate very well and get your point across, and I appreciate that. Instead of some religions, you just go, well, that's the way it is. Well, okay, that doesn't explain anything. So I appreciate you taking your time to with me on that, and thanks for allowing.
It's such a joy. Yeah, thank you for your question, Empty. Let's all give Empty a sound of applause because that was really a treat. Wonderful. Okay, how about Vaughn? Vaughn, do you have a question?
My question is like, didn't like the Japanese have pretty like warrior Buddhist monks back in like Sengoku Jidai?
Right. Yeah, there's been some.
Like they weren't peaceful.
Right. There's been some alterations of Buddhism to fit military needs or societal needs that are militant. But the interesting case with Buddhism is that there's no like scriptural reference, or you can't really legitimize violence from a Buddhist perspective, especially as a Buddhist monk. So Buddhist monks are not allowed to kill. If a Buddhist monk murders someone, they're no longer a monk, period. So, a warrior monk that's going around killing people is kind of an obfuscation of what Buddhism is actually about. And of course, any humanistic power structure is going to be exploitable. And if there's a lot of humans involved, then there's going to be a lot of silly things that can happen. But when it comes to violence or revenge or defending Buddhism, there's no legitimacy in that within Buddhism. And so what you'll find historically is that where Buddhism has gone is the path of least resistance, the path where they were pushed out by violence and didn't respond. Right? So my current understanding is that the monks in India that originally came from the Buddha, that school became very successful and powerful in India. Eventually, it was moved to a place in northern India because it was interfering with the Brahmins and the Hindus at that time, the power structures at that time. And so the monks and that school of Buddhism kind of moved up to this northern area, made a university, and was super established. And then there was a Muslim or an invasion of the nearby region, which was Muslim dominated, and the Buddhists kind of left India. Some went to China, and Buddhism, became massively successful as a philosophy and as a way of life in China, with a lot of religious aspects, sure. And then other monks went down to Southeast Asia, Thailand, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, and these places are still, 99% Buddhist. and then also with Japan and Korea. So there's not really a spread of Buddhism through violence, but certainly Buddhism has been co-opted by military regimes or violent leaders um, to meet their ends, right? To be successful in their endeavors. Okay, thank you, Vaughn.
I think it's more just like defending them because like, never mind. Yeah,
Yeah.
never mind.
Yeah, also self-defense, like a practical answer for self-defense as a Buddhist is, you have to do your best at that time. And you should prepare yourself to be mindful and peaceful and skillful for anything that comes. And all kinds of things can happen. We can't control everything that happens in our life. Do I know what I'm going to do if somebody kicks the door through and starts beating me up? I have no idea. But the Buddhist ideal, like the highest ideal, is that you would practice nonviolence, that you wouldn't get confused or stuck in this idea of a self to defend, and you would bring up a mind of loving kindness. You would bring up a mind of loving
Okay, thank
friendliness,
you.
and that would put you in a much more peaceful situation if you're getting beat up, or you're getting hurt, or even killed, which is very possible. So.
Thanks.
Buddhism is very nonviolent, but it's not pacifistic. It's more of an engaged compassion and engaged nonviolence. All right. Space Junk, do you have a question?
Hey, Monk, thanks for talking about Buddhism. I have two questions for you, actually.
Sure.
First one is growing up as a Theravada Buddhist, my whole life I've been asked about, do I believe in God? And I say yes. What is your philosophy as being a Buddhist and potentially believing God? Second was a follow up to what you said earlier about Buddha, his disciples moving around the south and east to spread Buddhism, and obviously the Siddhartha being Buddha, the first Buddha. It's interesting because in Theravada Buddhism, they discuss that how Siddhartha traveled to Sri Lanka a few times and other locations around that to spread Buddhism and not his disciples. What is your thought on that?
Well, my current understanding, like I said, is that things went very, very well in India, and they basically started to establish themselves and naturally spread out from this area in northern India. And so that's why you can find a lot of very old Buddhist relics in the Middle East, in places in the Middle East, because this region of India where they were kind of pushed to was nearby those areas, and they created the first ever university. So the Buddha going around to Sri Lanka, that's going to be hagiographical no matter what. It's the history of the saints. We don't know what the Buddha did in that way, but sure, if he went to Sri Lanka, wonderful, great. When people ask me about God and what I do I believe in God or something like that, I just tell them that doesn't really relate to my Buddhist practice. If I believe in God or not is more of a personal kind of perspective that I may or may not hold. But my practice is to be a friend of Christ. My practice is to be someone who's living a deeply virtuous, meditative, contemplative life and gaining a deeper insight into my own mind and my own suffering so that I can help other people on the path. So I can do good deeds more and more and be more present. So it's just not something. Buddhism doesn't reject God, and Buddhism in that way is more of a practice or a philosophy, because there isn't a creation story in Buddhism. People would come up and ask the Buddha about what was the beginning of the universe, or what was before the beginning. He just wouldn't answer these people. He didn't answer questions like this. It's not important. Why is it not important? Or what is it not important in relationship to training the mind, right? To being a virtuous person, to doing good deeds more and more, to practicing mindfulness more and more, to practicing detachment more and more, right? How is the origin of the universe going to, it's just like meandering thinking. It's fixating on something that is outside of your present moment experiencing. And in that way, it's very problematic and confusing. Doesn't matter. who created the universe or not, in terms of the practice of doing good deeds, mindfulness, and detachment. Do I believe in God in the way that a lot of people believe in God in America, which is like a dead faith, or a faith not based on acts, or a faith not based on experiences, that doesn't involve meditation and a real deep focus on virtue and ethics? No, I don't believe in something like that. I think that God, the concept of God, is way too, you can't just put God into a box and say, this is God, let me tell you about him. God is supposed to be something that is all encompassing and is omnipotent, and is, if you looked God in the eyes, you could only see light, right? You couldn't comprehend it with your um, you know humanistic mind, or your human mind. So that's kind of my position on it, but I don't focus too much on that, because each person's definition of God is going to be different. And so it's more curious to me of kind of asking, well, what do you mean by God? What does that actually mean to you? And now you're in a more of a contemplative and explorative experience with these people. You can also tell people, I don't really, I'm not interested to talk about religion, but thank you anyway.
Great answer. Thanks, monks.
Welcome. Okay, so maybe we go to eclectic entity now. Do you have a question if you're still here? All right, we'll see if anyone else has a question. You can also leave a comment down below if you have a question you want to ask. We'll bring up Sobor, Rufina, and Alaska. And the comment that I said about a dead faith is actually a quote from the Bible. So there's a quote in the Bible about a faith without acts. So like a faith without actions is a dead faith. Not just about kind of blind belief, but it's actually the deeds that we do more and more that are important. Okay, so who's next? Who has a question they want to ask?
I do.
Go ahead.
Hi there. Thanks for being here. I hope you can hear me okay. I just had a quick question about mental health when it comes to Buddhist monks and just Buddhism in general. I was wondering, how do you address like anxiety and depression, and do Buddhist monks suffer with mental illness?
What was the first part of the question?
Oh, just how does Buddhism address mental health?
Okay. So, a major idea about mental health in Buddhism, first and foremost, my perspective and any reasonable Buddhist person's perspective, is to get as much help as you can and to get the best help that you can. Okay? So that's my position. Also, I think that people should try to seek therapy and high quality therapists and a high quality relationship with a good therapist, over just only relying on psychiatric medicines like SSRIs and things like that. I think the first step should be looking for therapy and support in that way. And if you do need something like a SSRI or something for depression or anxiety, that ideally that's something you're working with the use of that substance with a therapist rather than just a psychiatrist that you go to see and they prescribe you um, these very serious drugs after a 15-minute consultation. So I will say that um, the Buddhist path and what I'm working with is to do good deeds more and more. to do acts of generosity more and more. And for a lot of people, this is going to bring them into community, which is very helpful for mental health. And this is also going to bring them into a kind of living a meaningful life. So when we are doing good deeds and when we are interacting with community, we're naturally having a richer experience of living a meaningful life, and we can naturally be less bogged down by our self-fixation. So doing good deeds more and more, and also like practicing mindfulness, so realizing that there is a present moment and there is a capacity to refresh and restart, and we don't just need to subscribe to one particular complicated or anxious or depressed story about ourselves, but like there is a present moment and we can connect with that, and we can refresh and restart and like walk on the path. So doing good deeds more and more, especially practicing generosity, realizing that there is a present moment. Okay, so even though there might be anxiety, there might be confusion, there might be depression, there might be trauma, there's also a present moment, and we can have a relationship with that, and that it's a place of safety and joy and renewal. Those are the two main things. And what's quite included in that is having relationships with people who are have gone through some healing and have some wisdom and have a lot of compassion and have a lot of peace and have a lot of joy. And if you approach it that way, I think there are major changes that can take place for your mental, psychological, emotional health, especially over time. Outside of that, some people do have more serious conditions, and like I said at the beginning, get as much help and the best help that you can. And of course, some Buddhist monks do have mental health issues, and if you get into like a lot of intensive meditation or intensively changing your life and practicing renunciation, then it's possible a lot of those issues can come to the surface that you originally weren't aware of. So you do have to be quite careful about just diving into forcing yourself to meditate or anything like that. But you don't need to be that careful about doing good deeds more and more. And that's actually the entry point to Buddhist practice, or should be the entry point to spiritual practice for anybody, is you start to do good deeds more and more. You don't get stuck in like forcing yourself to meditate, because it's just not reasonable. It's not advised really to do that. Okay, Nufina or Rufina?
Thank you so much. That was very helpful.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Yes,
Can you hear me
Alaska.
okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so I've been brought up as a Christian. So I grew up as a Christian, going to church in a Christian church and such. And through the years, there's just some Christian principles that are not sitting well with me. So recently, I've been researching about Buddhism here in my country and temples and such, so I can learn more about the principles of Buddhism. And in the process, I found that there are monks in some temples here that have been scamming people, like taking donations and such. So I was just wondering if in Christian principles there's like a concept of heaven and hell. Um, I was wondering if in Buddhism there's like teachings or concepts about consequences to such actions. Um, I hope that makes sense.
Sure, it makes sense, and I appreciate your sharing. Yeah, cause and effect is very important in Buddhism. This is what's called karma. So karma is a cause and effect, and related to your intentional action, then there will be an effect. So if you have a good intention and you act from a good intention, you're planting a good seed. You're planting a wholesome seed, and so naturally you're going to have a wholesome fruit at a certain point in your life. If you are doing unskillful actions, greedy, angry, whatever it might be, then you're planting an unwholesome seed, and there's going to be an unwholesome result to that. It's not something that we understand or that's meant to be understood intellectually or conceptually, but rather it's something very, very, very subtle. Just like the subtlety of all the neurons and protons and particles in the universe kind of bashing around and cause and effect taking place on that scale. So it's not something that you can grasp or understand intellectually or say, this happened because this happened. You can't do that because, well, it's too subtle, right? There are too many interactions and cause and effects going on that you couldn't understand it fully. Maybe unless you were enlightened, fully enlightened. Buddhism is a practice and a philosophy and a way of life, and it doesn't really matter if there are some weird monks at a temple near you. You know, that's a place you don't go to. That's a place you don't look to. If you want to get involved with the Buddhist path and learn more about the relevance that Buddhist practices might have in your life, you go to a temple, you hear about a temple, and there's some weird monks staying there. You turn the other way, right? There are plenty of monks. So yeah, I would say that don't hyper fixate on that because it's just a human situation. So at this point, I'm inviting everyone here on the Reddit live stream to go to the comments, and I just posted a comment right now, so you can go to the comments and sort by new, and it's a comment that has a list of resources that people can make use of moving forward. So if you're interested in a book recommendation, if you're interested in recommended teachers, all this jazz, I put that comment there, and please upvote it so everybody can see it easily. And also a link to my Discord server, a link to finding a nice meditation group near you, okay? And, you know, just some very good resources to make use of if you're interested in this stuff and you're looking for where to start. Okay. So I think we'll have one last question or so. Eclectic, are you there?
Yeah, I literally just got back as well.
Great. Okay, what's your question?
A multitude, but I'll try to narrow it down to just basically one or two. So Buddhism talks about doing good and living virtuously. But with the way that life and reality works, what's good for one can be bad for another. How does it balance out the conflicting, the confliction between what may be good for one is considered bad for another?
A mother nursing their child is not philosophical. It's not contrived and it's not complicated. So, in the same way, when we talk about doing good deeds from the Buddhist perspective, we are talking about something that is not contrived, not complicated, not philosophical. We are talking about doing good deeds more and more, primarily to practice generosity. And we're talking about this in a humanistic sense. Clean your room, go for a walk, focus on your breathing, relax, donate to someone who needs it. Be kind, be patient, be generous, be loving, be forgiving. Do good deeds more and more. Find a way to volunteer in your local area. Work a job that is bringing benefit to the people around you. What does that absolutely mean, or what does that philosophically mean? Well, it doesn't mean much more than a mother nursing their child. This is natural. This is organic. We're not, synthetic, robotic primates or something that are trying to figure out the mathematics of living together. Okay? We're human beings. And we need to take care of one another. We need to be generous with one another. We need to do our best to be skillful more and more. The primary focus here is your intentionality. So do you have an intention to do good? Do you have an intention to bring benefit? Do you have an intention to help? And is it actionable? Is it practical? Is it reasonable? Not is it perfect? Not is it ideal? So if we are talking on a massive scale of now I'm the global world leader, and I'm going to determine what's good and what's bad, that's a different conversation for sure. And I'm not ready to have that conversation because I'm not a global world leader. I'm a Buddhist monk talking to a few people on Reddit and a few people watching on YouTube and a few people watching on TikTok. So what's good is to do your best and try to be kind and try to be patient and try to be generous. If something is good, then it's going to have a good result. You're not going to be creating social disharmony. People aren't going to be having panic attacks because of the way that you act. Okay. The society is not going to have more instability and more confusion because of your presence or because you're, what you're doing, right? Because of your good deeds. So if you want to find out what's good and what's bad, try to use the toilet in the middle of a Costco. You'll find out, right? If that's good or that's bad, if that's skillful or unskillful. So this isn't for a philosophical game or to understand it philosophically. This is to do good deeds more and more. This is to do skillful activities more and more. And maybe you drop trowel and use the toilet, you try to use the toilet in the middle of Costco, and then you find out that's not where you go to the toilet. Well, now you have an opportunity to do a good deed, right? Next time you have that mindset, oh, I need to use the toilet, I'm walking through Costco, here I go. Oh, wait a minute. This will affect people in a negative way. This will upset people. This will confuse people. Right? This will put me in a dangerous situation. So you go to the restroom. And we just do that step by step by step. All right. We use our room as a toilet or we use our room as a trash can. Well, now somebody comes in and says, hey, what are you doing? This place stinks. This is a mess. Oh, geez. I don't want to upset anyone. I don't want to cause anyone to suffer. So I'm going to do this less. I'm going to use a trash can. So this is kind of how we approach doing good deeds from a Buddhist perspective. It's very practical, very simple, very grounded, very actionable. And there's probably some other things to add to it and ways to look at it, but this is the basic premise.
So I guess in general, it isn't necessarily to like look for what's absolutely good or
That's
bad. It's just
100% right. Yeah. It's not that. It's more to learn through doing and making mistakes. So there's a teacher here at the temple where I live. His name is actually Freedom, Teacher Freedom. And he said once that the difference between the student and the master, or the novice, the beginner, the intermediary, and the master, right, is that the master has failed more times than the student or the novice has even tried. So it's through that action and that good intention that we learn and we become more skillful to do good deeds. And as human beings, that's all we can do. That's how we can know if something works or if it doesn't. And that's what Buddhism advocates. It's a very humanistic approach to the good and bad.
actually to add on to that as well, though. Isn't Buddhism the one that came up with the quote, "A true master is a forever student or an eternal student"?
Buddha is one
Or
of
is
the
that
most misquoted people in the world, but that's a reasonable quote. This is also this other monk who lives here, whose name is Freedom. He said, "Wow, how that's when you know you're successful. When people have like wise quotes and they say, oh, the Buddha must have said them, or Bhante Varrapanyo must have said this because it's so wise or it makes so much sense, right? So that just shows the success of the Buddha. We even are misattributing wise quotes to him. Okay, thank you, entity.
yeah, I'll step down now then.
Right, appreciate you. Let's give a round of applause for entity. That was really a treat. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so Boar, do you have a question?
Yeah, hey, a few things you've said have resonated with me, and I just kind of wanted to pick your brain a little bit. I've been raised pretty much predominantly Christian, but have rejected a lot of the organized religion. Um, a lot of organized religion. In the being anywhere close to spiritual. I've just detached myself from all that. But recently, I've done DMT,
Yeah. What happened
and
when you did that?
holy shit, bro! That um,
You had a deep experience. And
I
then?
did 100%. That's what DMT does.
Then what happened?
It kind of helped me figure out. It put the picture in the frame, I guess, so to speak,
Hmm.
on a lot of things in my life, and made me reconsider the spiritual side of things. And I'm not one to prescribe, you know, a lot to drug experiences, but this was because I've done a lot of drugs, and that's fine. But like, that was like a different level. So it it helped me connect to maybe something that I had rejected previously. And I'm kind of like the mindfulness and the separation of self from
Yeah, so
separation of self. Yeah, sorry,
it's
I'm kind of
it's
trailing
okay.
off there.
Listen,
And
this
I'm
is
kind of
what you need to
yeah,
do. I'll tell you what you need to do.
yeah.
You need to understand that there are people who they've trained their mind to be peaceful, to be compassionate, and also to be wise. They know
Hmm.
about the truth. Even DMT couldn't get a hold of them. There's a lot of people like that in the world. And so if you listen to some of these teachers, okay, and if you connect with some of their communities, you're going to have a lot more support and access to living in a spiritual way, living your life in a meaningful way that is not reliant upon organized religion.
Hmm.
Okay. So in that comment that I put down there, there's a lot of good resources. Okay,
Hmm.
recommended teachers and talks you can listen to. So just start to go in that direction, um, and keep showing up to that. Okay, if you're willing to take DMT, you should certainly be able to willing to see if there's a Plum Village Sangha near you, okay, or a meditation
Hmm.
group near you that you can show up together with. As a Buddhist, we take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So the Buddha represents this capacity to become enlightened, this capacity to become free. I like to understand it. It's a little bit deeper than this, but this is one of the ways you can empathize with the understanding. It's
Hmm.
realizing that there is a NFL for peace. There is an NBA for compassion. Okay,
Hmm.
there is an NFL for patience and generosity and wisdom and insight. And in the same way that if you get on a football field with the NFL team, right? Well, I mean, you might as well be on Mars, right? That's
Hmm.
unbelievable, okay? And you're not going to look
Yeah.
at a football player and say, yeah, okay, I see those muscles, but let's get on the field. Let's see what the deal is, right? You're
Yep.
not going to say that. You're not going to be so ignorant and foolish. So the Buddha represents that there is an NFL for enlightenment. There is an NFL for peace. There is an NFL for wisdom, and even beyond that, right? Because the brain can be trained much further and much more deeply than the body can be, or like the muscles, right? It's just muscle fibers and
Hmm.
stuff. The brain's this whole thing. It's like DMT,
Yep.
you know. Um, so having that faith and that trust, you can take refuge in some of these teachers, people who are really far along the path. So we take refuge in the Buddha, who's like the deepest representation of that. Okay, and then we take refuge in the Dharma and the Sangha. So the Dharma is skillful teachings, real in-depth skillful teachings. All right.
Hmm.
And a lot of those teachings I find are Buddhist teachings, can be very deep,
Hmm.
high level, direct. Doesn't have to be Buddhist, but I find that that's very digestible for me from a secular and kind of scientific position, because I'm not looking for supernatural stuff or mystical stuff.
Hmm.
And then the big thing that maybe is more difficult for people to contact is Sangha, or meditative community, spiritual community. If you can have those resources in your life and move towards them and take refuge in them, you can really do a lot of deepening and transforming of whatever suffering you happen to be going through.
Is there a is there a I get there's a stigmatism around substance
It's just not
using
important.
substances.
It's
Yeah.
just not important. It's like Elon Musk going to a mountaineering group and telling them that he took a helicopter to the top of Mount Everest. Get out of here. I don't, it's sure you saw something or you experienced something, that's fine, but you're not a practitioner. You're not someone who's involved. You're not someone who's practicing consistency. You're not someone who's giving up to show up step by step, moment by moment. You're someone who took a helicopter ride up to the top. And, psychedelic experiences aren't really going to take you to the top because the top is no top. The highest attainment is no attainment. That's enlightenment. Not being stuck, not grasping in any experience, positive or negative, no matter how positive, no matter how negative, you're free of it. You don't grasp onto it. You don't even grasp onto the body. You don't even grasp onto the mind. But sure, you're aware of it.
Do you think I should put stock in those experiences or no?
It's just not, no, what you need to do is be inspired by those experiences to continue and to seek out resources and to get more involved. To be on the path. The content of those experiences is not that important, just like the content of your body is not that important. And you're not going to say that that experience is more important than your body. If you really believe that, well, don't eat, don't sleep, don't drink. You don't need to do any of it. It's not that important, right? So it's like your body is completely going to dissolve. That experience, you're grasping onto that experience, is not to be clung to, not to be fixated on. It's to be aware of and to continue on the path. What kind of path? Live a meaningful life, do more good deeds, practice generosity. Okay? Get involved with a meditation group if you can, or just check things out. Go on walks in nature and, listen to some of these teachers. Thich Nhat Hanh, Ajahn Brahm, Sharon Salzberg. Probably practice some metta meditation, some loving kindness meditation. All of this is really going to be good.
So, like, to get into the meditate, my mind is hella busy. So it's like it's hard for me to calm down and take.
That's why you need the supports. That's why you need guided meditations. That's why you need to listen to Dharma talks while you clean your house. That's why you need to go for walks in nature. Right? That's why you need to find a meditation community, because it's difficult. So it's getting involved, and if you get involved, then there's going to be an effect, and it's going to be quite lovely and wonderful, and you're going to make a lot of good friends along the way. Okay? But it all starts with generosity. It all starts with his willingness to breathing in, aware, breathing out, willing to let go, willing to not grasp, willing to relax, willing to be simple, willing to be ordinary, just have a cup of tea and enjoy.
That's dope. Thank you. That's fucking dope, dude. I really appreciate you taking my question.
Of course, you're welcome, and you're invited to join us on Discord, okay? If you know how to use that app. All right, everyone. So I am Bhante Varrapanyo, a 30-year-old American Buddhist monk, and we've been having this live community meditation or meditative experience with the Q&A. I hope this has been a meditative experience for you. We, of course, are live on YouTube, and we're also live on Reddit, and there's people watching on TikTok. Those TikTokers are there, the Redditors are here, the YouTubers are here, and there's probably some Discorders mixed in. So in 30 minutes, we are going to be having a kind of more of a formal guided group meditation session. And that's going to be held on our Discord server and also shared live on YouTube. So please feel invited and welcomed. You don't need to join, of course, but you're welcome to join for that group guided meditation session beginning in about 30 minutes on YouTube. And we'll keep it going and kind of enjoy the space together and practice some meditation together. But we will take a intermission, and then in just like 25 minutes, we'll be back to do that meditation. And I know some people are watching on Reddit, some people are watching on TikTok, but if you plan to join for the guided meditation, please consider to join us through the YouTube live stream. And That's the place with the less distractions and most high quality video, high quality audio. We can enjoy that together. Okay. Thank you everyone so much for being here and participating. And yeah, we'll just have some Buddhist music to play on our intermission, and then we will come back with our guided meditation practice. It's not very Buddhist. This is more Buddhist. Okay, enjoy everyone, and see you in about 20 minutes.
Raja Raja
So welcome back to the present moment. I'm your host, Bhante Varrapanyo, and we are going to transition into our live guided community meditation. If that's something that you want to participate in, you're certainly in the right place. We have some people who are watching on YouTube and some people who are watching on TikTok or listening on Reddit. So if you do want to join for the guided meditation, now is the right time to make your way over to the YouTube channel, or if you're already in the Discord, then you can join us over there. We're going to get started shortly with our group meditation. Guided group meditation. The YouTube channel is the same as my username here on TikTok. Search for that username, you'll find it. Hello, Samuel. Hello, everyone. Hi, Vasilis. So welcome in, everyone. We are preparing to begin with our live guided group meditation practice. If you're here to join for the meditation, if you're watching on YouTube and you're here to join for the full meditation period, please do say hello. Let me know that you're here. Let us all know that you're here. And of course, if you're on the Discord, you are invited and encouraged to share your camera, but also to stay for the full period. So we'll be meditating together for about an hour. And if you're here in the Discord, please do your best to stay for the full hour. And if you already are planning not to do that, then please join on YouTube so that we don't have people coming in and going out during the meditation. It can be disturbing to some of the people who are participating. Okay. See Savannah and DT, love and peace. Thank you, love and peace, for your offering today, your donation. And Michelle, hello there. So bored and RMB, maybe you can figure out how to mute your microphone here on Discord. And until then, I can help you. So I muted it for you, but just be aware of that. Otherwise, there can be noises coming through during the meditation. This will not really be a period of time for questions, but more an opportunity to practice meditation together with some guidance. Okay, so live, guided, community, and maybe Gabe, you can also mute your mic. Okay, thank you. Live, guided, community, meditation, Buddhist. So everyone, please get settled in, get comfortable. Begin soon. Now, does anyone have, before we do begin, does anyone have any important question that they need to ask before joining in meditation? Maybe you don't know where you are or what we're going to be doing here. So if that's the case, you can ask that question so that you feel comfortable to be here and join us in this practice. Hi there, Elizabeth. Right. So deep bow to everyone who is here and making the choice to join for this live community meditation practice. I am Bhante Varrapanyo. I'll be facilitating and offering some guidance for this meditation. The core and the heart of the Buddhist path is doing good deeds more and more. So living an ethical life. It means we do more skillful activities and we do less unskillful activities. Especially we try to do good deeds. We try to practice generosity, and so there's a simple understanding that if you do good deeds and if you do what you should do, then you will your mind will be more stable. You feel more peace. You have more good luck in your heart, in your mind, in your life. And one of the highest good deeds that we can do for a large variety of reasons, but just as a way of generosity to understand it this way, one of the highest good deeds or most skillful things that we can do is to train the mind, settle the mind, practice meditation, to establish ourselves in peace and well-being and awareness. So you can imagine that if it's good, it's not cheap, right? If it is very, very good for you, there's probably some difficulty involved with it. It's not going to be just like eating cake or eating candy. There's some abrasiveness, there's some resistance that we feel when we try to practice meditation. And you should expect during this practice to feel some of that. I like to see it as it's almost like the moment we actually start meditating and we realize that we're not at the fridge, right? We're not making instant noodles. We're not lighting up a cigarette. We're not on Amazon buying something. The moment we realize that we're not actively participating in getting something or getting rid of something, we kind of, there's this friction, there's this disconnect, there's this confusion, right? There's this, oh, well, I better give up or do something else, or this isn't working, what have you. So expect that that will come up, and don't be discouraged by that, but just come back to the practice. So let's begin. First of all, for meditation, we find a comfortable, stable position for our body. I like to sit cross-legged. You may need to sit in a chair. You may need to lie down. You may need to stand up. And don't be shy to change your position while meditating, as long as it's for the explicit purpose of staying in the meditation practice. So if it's to somehow like give up or avoid the whole meditating, then that's not ideal. You want to try and kind of be still. But if your reasoning for moving is that it's too much or it's just not working to stay in the position that you're staying in, consider to lay down, consider to stand up, consider to stretch your legs out. All of that's okay. But we start with this comfortable and stable position for the body. Put the body down in that position. As we put the body down, we are in some sense stopping. So we are stopping mental and physical activity right away. You don't need to apply force to stop thoughts or stop the body. Just by setting the body down, we are in fact stopping our mental and physical actions and activities. Okay? And at that moment of stopping, we begin to turn the mind around. What does that mean? It means we start to go from this outward focused way of being, where we're focused on doing things in the environment or thinking about things in the environment, etc. And we turn the mind around to be more aware of the present moment experience in the body and the mind internally. We turn our awareness around. So we find that comfortable, stable position for the body, and we begin to turn the mind around and become aware of what's happening in the body and certainly also what's happening in the mind. Now, this can be too much. Right off the bat, this can be too much. To start becoming aware of what's happening in the body and what's happening in the mind. This can already be too much. So, how we need to practice with this is with a meditation method. We need to have a tool or a way of continuously bringing the mind back and turning the mind around again and again and again. Because just being aware of the body and mind at that moment can be too much. So what is the meditation method? Well, it's sit down, comfortable, stable position for your body. More internally focused, aware of the body and mind just being here and sitting here. Now, you pick up the meditation method. Become aware, start to notice the feeling of your breathing in the nostrils. As if it's a curious thing, as if it's something, not to be taken for granted, right? But that it's actually the present moment feeling, the present moment experience of the breath coming in through the nose and flowing out. This is the tip of the spear. This is your meditation method. Okay, this is what we can rely on. This is what we can trust in. This is what we can come back to. So We are aware of physical sensations in the body, and we will continue to be aware of them. We are aware of thoughts. We are aware of ideas or preference, being pulled in this direction, that direction, different mental formations, different feelings or perceptions, etc. All these things are coming up. So we recognize that things are coming up. We recognize that there is a awareness there. There is a recognizing there. Okay? At that moment, coming back, returning to the meditation method. Well, what's that meditation method? Breathing. The meditation method is breathing. And specifically, we are aware of all of these mental formations, thoughts, whatever it might be that comes up, physical sensations in the body, whatever it might be. We come back to this awareness of the meditation method, and that is our awareness of our breathing as it enters in through the nostrils and goes out. This is what needs to be emphasized and needs to be understood. This is the meditation method. Okay. It may deepen, it may be shallow, it may be easy, it may be difficult. We may get something from it, we may not get something from it. It may be difficult to stay with it, it may be very easy to stay with it. None of this is important. What's important is to recognize that mental formation, the mental formations. It's to recognize physical formations in the body, okay, as they're coming up, as they are arising. And using that recognition, that awareness of, oh, this isn't working, da 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 da, whatever it is, or this, oh, this is working, I'm really doing it, whatever it is, and we come back aware of that feeling of the breath as it comes in through our nose, as it enters in through our nostrils. Don't really concern yourself about if your practice deepens, or if your concentration or your relaxation deepens, or if the opposite of it happens. So it doesn't matter if you get distracted. It doesn't matter if you've got complicated stuff going on in your mind. It doesn't matter if your body is uncomfortable. If your body's uncomfortable and it's too much, just adjust your posture and come back to this present moment awareness of the meditation method, the way of meditating, okay, the way of being in relationship with the feeling of the breath as it enters into your nostrils. Don't be shy to breathe as deeply as you need to. Don't be shy to experiment with how you're breathing, with how you're thinking, with how your body is moving. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's okay. It doesn't matter. You're aware of it. You get stuck in it. You get lost in it. You're really doing it right. That also doesn't matter. I'm interrupting the best meditation you've ever had. Doesn't matter. Right? Once again, coming home, noticing, becoming aware of the meditation method, the way of practice, the way of showing up, the way of recognizing, the way of being aware. The feeling of your breath as it enters into your nostrils. this awareness of your breathing as it enters in through the nostrils is not exclusive. This isn't Club Med. This isn't Mar-a-Lago. Okay, you're focusing on your breathing is not the American Express Club at the airport. Okay, your present moment awareness of your breathing is inclusive of anything, everything. Okay, it's inclusive of feeling the breath in the body, feeling the wonderfulness of being out in nature, hearing sounds, feeling safe, okay, relaxing the body. It's inclusive of all this. But what's important is to come home to the meditation method and abide. Abide in not abiding. Just practice the meditation method. Just follow, be aware of, notice. At this present moment, not 5 moments ago, not 5 moments from now, when who knows what's going to happen, but to come home to this present moment experiencing, which is like a burning fire of healing and freedom and safety and joy, transformation, okay? This present moment breathing, this noticing, this feeling of the breath as it comes in through the nose and flows out. Whenever the meditation practice becomes in some way confusing, good or bad, right or wrong, whenever you become uncertain, whenever you begin to rely on thinking about yourself or about this situation or about the environment, return to the meditation method. If that is not happening, if that issue is not there, then be aware of your breathing. Okay? But the moment that some distraction, some obfuscation, some complication comes up, return to that awareness, that feeling of the breath in the present moment entering in through your nostrils. Don't have a deep meditation, don't have a shallow meditation. Be aware. Relaxed, sure, but primarily aware. You need to be careful about relaxation. Of course, to relax the body, relax the mind, state of rest, state of peace, but also aware, also attentive to the present moment breathing and coming back to that, relying on that, staying with the meditation method. Bringing this sense of curiosity and also to enjoy present moment breathing and to stay with it. In this process of following our breathing and noticing the breath, feeling the breath as it enters into our nostrils, we are offering out, we are giving up, we are letting go of whatever thought, idea, reactivity to physical sensation that comes up in the body, noticing and aware, continuing to offer out, continuing to abandon any fixation, any stuckness. Okay? And that's an active process to give up, to offer out. It's not something we passively relax into or fall into a trance of generosity. But it's in the present moment to come back to this breathing, this awareness of the breathing as it enters the nostrils, as our avenue and our way of offering out, abandoning, letting go. We may also notice the sound of the breath or the feeling of the breath in the body. This can also be an anchor point and a focus point. Just to breathe and be aware and to rely, take refuge in that present moment breathing experience. Present moment breathing and being aware, especially the feeling of the breath that enters the nostrils. You should notice that the mind becomes a little bit more curious. Maybe it's expressing or acting in a way, or we're noticing it in a way that we're not so used to, or the body. Get more curious. So notice that. Then give it up, offer it out, let it go. Return to present moment breathing, present moment noticing. Breathing in deeply, fully aware, present moment. Breathing out, aware, and also offering out, giving up, letting go. Particular idea or any importance that we're giving to one aspect of the body, one aspect of the mind. Just at this moment, returning to meditation method. And don't be shy to enjoy. Also, don't fall into a trance. And if you notice that you to get stuck in any kind of force or control or friction, you just adjust a little bit. Adjust your posture, adjust the way of your breathing, adjust your mindset, just to come home to breathing, come home to a sense of gentleness and sincerity. There's no judgment. There's no story to fixate on. And if there is a story that we are fixated on, if there is an aspect of our mind or our body that we are fixated on, breathing in deeply, we are aware. And breathing out, we offer out, we abandon. Even if it's there, we offer it out, we abandon it, we don't get stuck on it. We offer out even that offering out. We abandon even that abandoning. We notice again the breath blowing in through the nose at the present moment. Not fight or struggle with anything. Just to be aware is enough. Just to notice is enough. The moment we struggle or fight, fixate, wow, present moment, noticing the breath coming in through my nose, so essential, so vital, curious. Other things that come up, we can be aware of them. Look at them with detachment, with awareness. Can notice. But the moment that there is struggle or fiction or friction or self-identification, self-fixation, wow, the noticing, curiosity, present moment breathing in through the nostrils. Refresh, restart, noticing. So what is the meditation method? What is it that we are doing here? We are abandoning all trance states. We are abandoning concentration and relaxation. We are giving up whatever we think, whatever we believe about what we're going to get out of this meditation, okay? Or what we're going to get rid of, what we're going to change about ourselves. Wow, present moment, aware of breathing at this moment. We notice breathing coming in through our nostrils, and somehow there's a recognition, there's a curiosity, the vitalness, the essentiality, the joy, the nourishment of this present moment breathing, the breath as we feel it coming in through our nostrils. We can notice the subtlety of the mind. We can notice the real quality of present moment experiencing as it relates to sensations in the body. Okay? Someone, someplace, some time, some story, some real true story, real true person that we've got to deal with. And the worst one is ourselves that we've got to deal with, right? What a mess. Real true person, a real true story. And yet, there's this noticing of present moment experiencing in the body, just sensations. Very curious, looking at it closely. Well, what's that? Well, that's what it is. That's what's happening right now. Maybe particular thoughts, particular ideas. And notice them too, but don't rely on them. Mind is a little bit too contrived, complicated. Be uninvolved with the mind, but sure, you notice it. So what? It says this, it says that. So what? Who cares? Coming back again to this noticing the breath, this nourishing breath, this golden breath, this joyful breath, this healing breath, as it enters in through the nose. Breathing and noticing. And to notice, noticing. And to abandon overall. Give up overall. Offer out overall, whatever it is. Just the meditation method. Just our sincerity to be here, breathing and aware. And for those few glimpses, those few moments, to notice that. To notice that that's what you're practicing. That's what's happening. Relax. Offer out. Release. Nothing special. Nothing important. It's just ordinary. It's just to breathe, be home. Very gentle, very sweet, very relaxed. There's no force or struggle to apply to this. There's no use for it. There's no need for it. The need is there for gentle, soft, sweet, sincere, relax. And say to ourselves, if we need to use the mind in some capacity, we can say, I am safe. I am home. I am free. Noticing, becoming aware of present moment sensations of the breath flowing in through the nose. Curiosity, interest in the present moment, breathing, flowing in through the nose. Give your full attention at this time to the feeling of the breath as it enters the nostrils, flows out. Just following those present moment sensations as they flow in and flow out. Really to enjoy that. The joy of breathing. It is a joy. It is a happiness. Somehow maybe we can't feel that or we don't have an overall relationship with that in our life. And so there's a distance with that breathing as a happiness, as a joy. But in some sense we can kind of know. There's a knowing there. It is a joy to breathe, isn't it? It is a happiness to breathe. It's really special. It's really interesting. It's really curious. So let's give our full attention to that. For each one of us, our practice is going to have different qualities, and we're going to have different capacities to work with those qualities in our practice. But if we can understand this application of the meditation method, okay? If we can understand to be aware, to notice our breathing closely as it enters in through the nose, flows out. We have a way of practice, a way of showing up, a way of being present. And that's enough. We have plenty of very pleasurable experiences, special experiences in our life. You know, for most of us, we're kind of figuring out, how can I have a special experience? Special car, special thought, special mind state, special relationship. So here in meditation, there's no need to seek for a special thing or a special experience. Rather, the happiness of breathing, the joy of breathing is more than enough. That quality of noticing is more than enough. Anytime when we notice, when we become aware of a special experience, a strong thought, a strong feeling in the body, a strong relaxation, a strong concentration, we can practice to kind of step back. Don't use force, don't force this, but the stepping back and once again returning to our meditation method, returning to this quality of noticing, present moment breathing. And this is a happiness and this is a joy to breathe and be aware of our breathing. So at this time, we can open our eyes if they are closed, and we can adjust our posture a little bit if we have any crinks or kringles that have been popping up, and move slowly and gently. Change our position a little bit. A lot of people, especially in Vietnam, there's this big thing where after a meditation period, they rub their hands together. This can be quite good, and then to massage the face, to massage the head. We can also massage any part of the body where there might have been some tightness or some difficulty. You could even rub your belly. Maybe you had some tightness in the stomach area or when you're breathing, but any area that had that friction or what have you, you can massage that area. Stretch that area. So this meditation practice is not foreign. It's very human. It's very natural. We become aware of our breathing, the direct experience of breathing. We kind of notice and are aware of a lot of different things, and we return to the breathing. But in that returning to the breathing, we offer out, we abandon, we give up those our fixation, our attachment to those particular phenomena, stories, mental or physical experiences. We kind of offer out by breathing in breathing out. We can rely on that meditation method more and more in our lives so that we can have a consistent and meaningful relationship with the present moment and a consistent and meaningful relationship with our intentionality that we bring to life, so that we're not kind of along for the ride or, these submissive participants, but we're here in the present moment. We are aware of our breathing. We are aware that our breathing is a joy and a happiness. And so we're not so pulled around by these needs for complicated sense experiences, but it's a practice. It's a way of practice. Come home to our breathing, to reunite with our breathing in the here and now. It's always applicable. It's always practical. At this time, we open it. We open the space if anyone would like to ask a question or share about their experience. So please feel welcome. You can type it, you can unmute your microphone and ask a question. Up to you.
Today, specifically, during this meditation session, that I was very stop and go, stop and start. I had bursts of strong attention, intermingled with a lot of strong distractions and impulsiveness to follow said distractions. I asked you about a week ago, I think now, what the importance of, I guess, like long term, or I think I phrased it as like, what is the
Longer
more frequent
periods of
meditation for
meditation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I asked about that a couple of weeks ago and felt like I got a satisfying answer. And but I guess my question now is, what is the worth of continuity, of continuous meditation and focus? What is the significance that comes with
Right.
um, staying with it rather than stop and start and, having moments here and there?
Yeah, so the continuity that you're talking about is overall consistency of intentionality to come back. The distractions are the practice. Okay. The suffering is the source of the happiness. Okay. Suffering and happiness inter-are. Ignorance and wisdom inter-are. Ignorance is the source of wisdom. So the more that we can recognize our mind and the difficulties and the distractions and the confusions, the more that we can develop a relationship with recognizing rather than distracting or consuming or obfuscating or confusing or latching onto self-fixated, complicated thinking. Okay? So this is the practice. It's good. It's great. And I mean, it makes meditation a lot more accessible for everyone because the distractions are the practice. That's what we're here for. We're here to get distracted. We're here to encounter difficulty. We're here to plant seeds in the mud, right? Plant seeds of awareness, plant seeds of intentionality to come home to the present moment in the mud of our ignorance, of our sufferings, of our complicated thinking, of our depressions, our anxieties, our complicated stories, right? So the consistency of practice is not how often you could come back to the meditation method during 30 minutes or an hour or what have you. It's how you integrate mindfulness as your way of living, as your way of walking in the world, and how you find a support structure and you find a way of living, like following the precepts more closely, right? Following the 5 precepts, for example, to constantly have a reminder and have a structure for your mindfulness, for your present moment awareness, for your investigation, for your curiosity, where you're attending to what's happening here and now. Because this strong self-fixated ideal of someone who is going to, get to the next level or make this attainment, this is just another distracted thought. It's no more legitimate, it's no more real than the special meditation experience or the other version of it, which is, wow, I'm really getting it. I didn't get distracted that whole time. So what? It doesn't matter. It's good, it's bad, doesn't matter. Your sincerity matters, your intentionality matters to come home now. It's like, well, you try to tell yourself, I was breathing 5 minutes ago. So what? You got to breathe now. You've got to enjoy your breathing now. You've got to practice now. Be mindful now. Abandon now. Give up, give out now. That's the consistency. Yeah.
I think I'm starting to more understand it as, I guess these guided meditations more as, I guess like a meditative session at the gym, like something to practice out in real life, or like physical therapy, I guess more so, of like practicing things that you should do just every day in ordinary life, of just mindfulness. It's like an intensive training session of something to kind of start getting into the habit of doing it more throughout the rest of your life. I feel like I'm kind of picking
Yeah.
up that's what
Yeah.
you're more or less
This
referring
is
to.
a checkpoint. Okay, we go through the sufferings and the depressions and all these different levels in our life, and we get tired and we get burdened and we think, oh, I'm going to give up, or I've got to get out of this game, but I can't, because I need to keep going. I need to keep struggling. I need to continue to the next level, because otherwise I'm going to have to start from the beginning again, right? I'm going to lose my job, my etc. This is a checkpoint. Now you can turn the game off. Now you can let go. Now you can abandon. Now you can give up, and then you can continue on your path, right? You don't necessarily want to become a monastic or a Buddhist monk, right? So this is a space where we can check in and recognize that the present moment is real, that Buddhism is real, that meditation is real, that spiritual friendship, spiritual community is real. We're not just, cogs in a machine, working to make money and, struggle or fight in a war or something like that, but that the Dharma is real, the Sangha is real, right? The Buddha, which represents our capacity to wake up, our capacity to see through suffering, is real and it's relevant, and we can make use of it. So, I'm certainly making use of it in all the ways that I can, right? But it's not to attain this, spiritual version of yourself or something. It's really to continue and rest and enjoy and come home to a place where you don't have to set all of these um, complicated standards for yourself. You don't need to get anything. You don't need to change anything. You just to come home and to enjoy it and to experience the freedom of it, the safety of it, the joy of it.
Yeah, it feels very liberating and very safe to come home to this as a practice. I'm very grateful. Yeah, thank you. That answers my question very nicely. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you for sharing out as you did. You are.
Bhante, do you mind if I ask a question?
Go ahead, Marl.
Today I was out on a walk and I was curious Does technology interfere with mindfulness in any way that you see?
Well, it can if you. No, it can't because there's nothing outside of the mind. Okay, it's just your mind. The technology is just your mind. The environment is just your mind. So when you go out into nature for a beautiful walk, okay, that's your mind. The beauty of it is that that's your mind. It's not outside of your mind. When you are making use of technology to do something like this, that's my mind. This is my mind. Okay. When you are consuming unskillful media and you're kind of really getting yourself into a major issue with technology and media consumption, and you're hurting yourself and you're hurting other people, that's your mind. That's what you need to recognize. That's what you need to look at. If we focus on the material or the object, you're either going to reject it or you're going to grasp it. And we don't want to do either of them. We don't want to cling to technology, and we also don't want to reject technology because it's not necessary. It's just your mind. And so then it's just grasping and rejecting. And these are things that are all keeping us locked in, suffering, to self-fixation, to confusion. So prioritize virtue, and then mindfulness will come along naturally. And you'll be more supportable. A virtuous person is supportable. Okay, a virtuous person is you can work with them. There's reasonableness to it. There's a safety to it. So prioritize being virtuous, and then you're in a much more workable situation to be mindful and to be skillful in your life as a whole, so that you can make the proper use of these technologies, whatever they are. Proper use of
Yeah.
all the different aspects of your mind.
Exactly. Thank you very much. And thank you for the session. Much love.
Thank you. Glad you're here. Nimue, do you have any question or anything to share about your experience? Okay. Anyone else have a question or want to share something? Okay. So wow, Nimue went on a retreat and it's been very helpful for her practice. So what a joy that is. Thank you for sharing that, Nimue. So we will finish with, I'll just offer a chant. I'll offer a Buddhist chant in the Pali language. And this chant is has the meaning of to lift up and to pay respect and to pay our appreciation to our Buddha nature. So that is our real capacity to become enlightened, right? The Buddha mind, the Bodhi mind that we have inside of ourselves. And yeah, we'll just finish up with that chanting. And you're welcome to bring your hands together with me as we chant that. And then at the end, I'll ring the bell And we'll bow together at that time. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Sadhu, Okay, thank you all for being here. May you be happy, may you be peaceful, may you be free from your suffering, and look forward to seeing you again sometime, practicing together, even if we can't see each other. Okay? Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you, everyone.
YouTubers, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your happiness, your peace, your mindfulness, and see you next time.